Family, I want you to lean in for a moment, because what I'm about to share isn't just another word to inspire you. It's a reminder to your spirit. There is a power that rises not when we shout the loudest, but when we fight the hardest, but when we become still and let God be God. Silence is not weakness. Silence is not absence. Silence is not surrender to defeat. Silence is an invitation for heaven to move in ways your voice cannot. Some of you have been talking yourself into exhaustion, trying to explain who you are, trying to defend why you deserve to be loved, trying to prove that you're strong enough, good enough, worthy enough. But let me tell you something, your destiny doesn't need your defense. Your promise doesn't require your performance. God has already spoken over you, and when you quiet the noise, you'll hear him louder than ever. The enemy wants you distracted. He wants you caught up in the chaos of comparison, in the chatter of fear, in the conversations that steal your peace. But when you silence the noise, you position yourself to hear divine instructions. You start to recognize that not every battle is meant to be fought with words. Some battles are won on your knees. Some victories are released when you hold your tongue and let your character speak. Some doors open because you stopped knocking long enough for God to open them in his timing. I know it's hard to stay silent when you've been overlooked. I know it hurts to stay silent when you've been betrayed. I know it feels impossible to stay silent when everything in you wants to clap back and prove your worth. But your silence is not empty. It's sacred. It's in that stillness that God begins to whisper strategies that will outlast your critics. It's in that quiet that he builds your strength. So when you walk out of the storm, you don't just survive, you emerge anointed, unshaken, and unbreakable. So stop apologizing for going quiet. Stop explaining why you don't fit into their circle anymore. Stop feeling guilty for stepping back and protecting your peace. You're not being distant. You're being developed. You're not ignoring people. You're listening for heaven. God doesn't need your noise to deliver his promise. He just needs your stillness. He just needs your trust. If you can master the discipline of silence, you'll see things you couldn't see before. You'll discern doors you couldn't discern before. You'll hear God's voice directing you into places your own voice could never take you. And when you come out of that silence, your life will speak louder than any words ever could. Silence is not weakness. It's strength. Silence often gets misunderstood. People think that if you don't speak up, you're powerless, or if you don't defend yourself, you're being walked over. But silence is strength under control. It's choosing not to let your emotions run the show. When you learn to stay quiet in moments, when the world expects you to react, you're saying, I know who fights my battles. Silence gives you the strength to let God handle what your words cannot fix. Silence creates space to hear God's voice. When life gets noisy, when opinions are flying at you, when fear and doubt start screaming in your ear, it's easy to miss the gentle whisper of God. Silence allows you to tune out the chaos and lean into the divine. God often speaks in the stillness, in the moments where we stop striving, stop talking, and simply sit in his presence. The more you quiet the outside voices, the clearer his voice becomes. Silence protects your destiny. Not every dream needs to be announced. Not every vision needs to be explained. Some of the greatest moves of God in your life will happen quietly in the secret place where he's preparing you. When you stay silent about certain things, you protect your vision from premature judgment, criticism, or sabotage. Silence becomes a shield around what God is building in you, keeping it safe until it's ready to be revealed. Silence speaks louder than words. There are moments where your silence will carry more weight than your explanation ever could. Your peace in the middle of chaos, your refusal to clap back when provoked, your calm confidence when others doubt you, all of these things shout louder than words. Silence says, I know who I am. I know who's got me. I don't need to prove myself. That kind of silence speaks volumes. Silence allows God to fight for you. Some battles are not meant for your mouth. They are meant for God's hands. When you resist the urge to argue, defend, or retaliate, you give God room to step in and do what only He can do. He said, "Be still and know that I am God." That stillness is not passive, it's active faith. It's trusting that He sees, He knows, and He will vindicate you in His perfect timing. Silence is a tool for inner healing. When you go quiet, you start hearing the truth inside your own soul. You become aware of the wounds, the fears, and the insecurities you've been masking with business or words. In the silence, God performs surgery on your heart. He cleans out bitterness, replaces anger with peace, and pours in the kind of healing that no one else could give. Silence isn't just about waiting. It's about being transformed from within. Silence positions you for greater revelation before God releases a new level. He often pulls you into a season of stillness. It's in those quiet seasons that He downloads wisdom, gives you vision, and prepares you for the doors He's about to open. Silence isn't punishment. It's preparation. When you embrace the stillness, you're saying, "Lord, I'm ready to receive whatever you're about to reveal." And when the time is right, you'll step forward carrying divine clarity and unstoppable confidence. Silence is often mistaken for weakness, but true silence is not about being powerless. It is about having the strength to hold back when your flesh wants to lash out. It's about knowing that your identity doesn't rest in how loudly you defend yourself, but in how deeply you trust the one who called you. Silence is not passive. It is active restraint. It is the decision to keep your spirit grounded in wisdom instead of being carried away by emotions. There is a quiet confidence that comes when you know you don't have to waste energy proving yourself to people who were never assigned to validate you. Many times, silence is the loudest statement you can make. Think about it when you refuse to clap back at negativity, when you resist the temptation to argue with someone who has already made up their mind about you. When you choose to walk away from unnecessary conflict, you are demonstrating power. It takes strength to hold your peace when every part of you wants to react. It takes courage to stay still when chaos is swirling around you. And it takes discipline to say, "I won't let this moment rob me of my growth or my destiny." Some of the strongest people in the world are not the ones who shout the loudest, but the ones who stay anchored in silence, trusting God to speak louder than they ever could. You see, silence doesn't mean you have nothing to say. Silence means you've decided that the words you could speak won't shift the outcome. Silence says, "I don't need to fight for attention because I already know I'm seen by God." Silence says, "I don't need to prove my worth to you because my Creator has already defined me." That's not weakness. That's strength on another level. When you think about how battles are won in the Spirit, many of them are not fought with noise. They're fought in prayer, in stillness, in the quiet surrender where you let God be God. And that requires a strength that noise can't provide. Anyone can scream. Anyone can retaliate. Anyone can fill the room with words. But it takes a warrior to hold their tongue, to trust in divine timing, and to let actions and outcomes speak louder than arguments ever could. There are people who may misunderstand your silence, thinking you don't care, thinking you're afraid, or thinking you've given up. But don't you let their interpretation define your strength. The truth is, silence often means you are wise enough to know that not every battle deserves your energy. Some situations are beneath your calling. Some arguments are beneath your assignment. Some responses are beneath your destiny. Strength looks like knowing when to engage and when to stay quiet. The power of silence is choosing peace over chaos, wisdom over impulse, and destiny over distraction. And when you stand in that kind of silence, you're not shrinking back. You're standing taller than ever before, fully aware that your silence is not weakness. It is the strongest response you could ever give. Life has a way of filling our hearts and minds with noise. The opinions of others, the weight of expectations, the doubts whispering in our ear, the fear of failure, all of it creates a constant chatter that can drown out the very voice we need to hear the most. God is always speaking, But sometimes his voice is not in the thunder or the earthquake. It's in the whisper. And that whisper is only recognized when we allow ourselves to become still. Silence is the sacred doorway through which his voice can be heard more clearly. When you practice silence, you are doing more than just being quiet. You are making space. You are saying, Lord, I choose to shut out the noise of the world so I can tune into your spirit. Silence becomes the reset button for your soul. In that stillness, you begin to recognize the difference between your own thoughts, the voices of people around you, and the voice of God. And when you know his voice, you gain clarity that no opinion or distraction can shake. There are moments when we cry out to God, begging him for answers, pleading with him to show us the way. And yet our lives are so noisy that even if he whispered the answer, we wouldn't catch it. Silence isn't about ignoring life. It's about leaning into the eternal. It's choosing to step away from the chaos, not because you don't care, but because you care too much to miss what God is saying. In those quiet moments, he reminds you of who you are. He affirms his promises over you, and he gives you instructions that set the course for your destiny. Think about how powerful it is when you intentionally quiet the world around you. You start noticing his peace settling in your heart. You begin to realize that your worth was never tied to people's approval, and your direction was never dependent on their opinions. The silence sharpens your discernment. It awakens you to opportunities you would have overlooked if you were too busy filling the air with your own words. The answers you've been searching for are often waiting in the quiet places where God can finally get your undivided attention. It may feel uncomfortable at first to sit in silence, especially if you're used to constant stimulation. But growth often comes in uncomfortable places. Silence teaches patience. It teaches trust. It teaches surrender. It shifts your focus from trying to control everything to allowing God to lead everything. When you let silence become a practice, you'll notice that God's guidance doesn't always come in dramatic ways. It comes in gentle nudges, in sudden clarity, in peace that overrides confusion. The voice of God is too precious to be drowned out by the noise of life. If you want direction, healing, wisdom, or strength, silence is the posture that opens the door. It is in stillness that you realize he was speaking all along. You just needed to quiet the storm so you could finally hear him. There are some things in life that are too sacred to be shared too soon. Dreams, visions, and promises that God places in your spirit are often fragile in their early stages. Like a seed buried deep in the soil. They require protection, nurturing, and time to take root before they can withstand the elements. Silence becomes the covering that shields your destiny until it's strong enough to be revealed. When you choose to keep certain things between you and God, you're not hiding. You're safeguarding what heaven is preparing to release. One of the reasons silence is so powerful is that it guards you from premature exposure. Not everyone around you has the eyes to see what God is building in you. Some will misunderstand it, some will criticize it, and some may even try to sabotage it. If Joseph's story in Scripture teaches us anything, it's that sharing your dream with the wrong people at the wrong time can stir up envy, hatred, and unnecessary opposition. Silence doesn't mean you don't believe in your dream. It means you're wise enough to protect it until God says it's time. When you choose silence, you are also protecting your heart from unnecessary discouragement. Every time you share something precious, you open the door for someone else's doubts, fears, and negativity to settle in your spirit. And if you're not careful, their words can plant seeds of doubt that grow faster than the promise itself. But when you hold your peace and let God develop the vision in the secret place, you are guarding your heart against the weight of opinions that were never meant to shape your journey. Silence doesn't just protect your dream from others. It protects it from your own impatience. Sometimes we want to announce everything God has shown us because we're excited. But excitement without wisdom can be dangerous. When you discipline yourself to stay silent, you train your spirit to trust God's timing. You stop rushing to make things happen on your own and start allowing Him to unfold things a way that aligns with His perfect plan. Silence becomes a teacher, reminding you that destiny is not a sprint. It's a journey that unfolds step by step. The beauty of silence is that it gives God room to confirm His word in your life without interference. While you're quiet, He's aligning connections, preparing resources, and shaping opportunities that your words could never create. By the time your destiny is ready to be revealed, it will be undeniable. Your silence will have done the work of protection, and God's hand will have done the work of fulfillment. Don't be discouraged if you feel hidden right now. Being hidden is not the same as being forgotten. It is in the silence, in the secret place, that God does His best work. He is building you, refining you, and preparing you for the day when your destiny will no longer need protection because it will be standing strong for the world to see. Until then, let silence be your shield and trust that what is protected in private will be revealed in power. There are times in life when your silence will echo louder than anything you could ever say. Words can be twisted, misunderstood, or ignored, but silence carries a weight that cannot be denied. When you choose not to respond to negativity, when you refuse to engage in arguments that drain your spirit, when you simply stand in peace while the storm rages around you, your silence speaks volumes. It tells the world, I know who I am. I know who stands with me. I don't need to prove myself. That kind of silence radiates strength, maturity, and confidence that words could never fully capture. Silence can be a demonstration of dignity. There will always be people who try to pull you into unnecessary battles, who want to provoke a reaction, who feed off your need to defend yourself. But when you remain silent, you show that their chaos does not control you. It's not that you don't have something to say. It's that you've decided the conversation is beneath your assignment. That restraint speaks louder than any comeback. It shows that your character is stronger than your impulse. Your silence also has the power to convict others without you ever lifting your voice. Sometimes the absence of your reaction forces people to face their own actions. When you don't give energy to gossip, slander, or disrespect, your silence becomes a mirror, reflecting back to them the emptiness of their behavior. You don't have to shout to make an impact. You don't have to explain yourself to everyone who misunderstands you. Your silence communicates that you are operating on a higher level, one that doesn't require constant validation. Even in moments of suffering, silence can be powerful. It's not about pretending everything is fine, but about choosing to endure with grace. When people watch you walk through fire and still maintain your peace, it preaches a sermon without a single word. Your silence becomes a testimony of faith. It reveals a strength that cannot be shaken by circumstances. People will wonder how you're still standing, how you're still smiling, how you're still believing, and your quiet endurance becomes a louder message than 1,000 explanations. Silence is also a language of trust. It says, I don't have to defend myself because I know God is my defender. It says, I don't have to argue about what He promised me because the promise will speak for itself in time. There is a profound boldness in silence that words often lack. Words can try to convince, but silence says, just watch. And when the results begin to show, when the blessings start to overflow, when the breakthrough finally comes, your silence will have spoken more loudly than any speech you could have given. So do not underestimate the power of saying nothing. Silence is not emptiness. It is presence. It is presence with God, presence with yourself, and presence with purpose. And when you choose silence in the right moments, you discover that your stillness roars louder than any voice in the room. There are battles in life that were never meant for your mouth, but for God's hands. We often think that defending ourselves, arguing our case, or proving our worth will bring resolution. But more often than not, it only drains our spirit. Silence in its purest form is not about ignoring the fight. It's about stepping aside so the one who has never lost a battle can fight on your behalf. When you choose silence, you are making a declaration of faith that says, I trust God enough to let him handle this. That kind of surrender is not weakness. It's the deepest form of strength. Sometimes the hardest thing you'll ever do is nothing. It's easy to speak up, to clap back, to demand that others see your side of the story. But it takes courage to remain silent, to resist the urge to control the narrative, and to believe that God will vindicate you. He has already promised in his word, be still and know that I am God. Stillness doesn't mean inactivity. It means confidence. It's a posture of trust that says, I don't have to exhaust myself because I know who is working for me. When you allow God to fight for you, you release the pressure of trying to manage outcomes. You don't have to manipulate situations, convince people to stay, or force doors to open. Your silence gives God the room to move without interference. While you are quiet, he is aligning hearts, shifting circumstances, and preparing victories you could never achieve with your own hands. Sometimes what looks like you doing nothing is actually you cooperating with heaven's strategy. There will be moments when people misunderstand your silence. They may think you're weak, that you don't care, or that you've given up. But in reality, your silence is your faith in action. It is you declaring that you believe God sees every injustice, hears every cry, and knows every detail. And because he is faithful, you can rest instead of wrestle. You can breathe instead of battle. You can stand firm instead of striving. When God fights for you, his victory is undeniable. You won't have to explain how it happened or why it happened. People will see the evidence. Your enemies will have to watch as he prepares a table before you in their presence. Your critics will have to acknowledge that something greater than you is at work in your life. And the best part, you will walk away not only with the victory, but with your peace intact because you refuse to lose yourself in the fight. So the next time you are tempted to argue, to prove, to defend, pause and remember your silence is not empty. It is a weapon of faith. It is an offering of trust. And it is the key that allows God to do what only he can do. Fight for you, protect you, and lead you into a victory that will silence every doubt. When you allow yourself to step into silence, something begins to shift deep within you. Silence is not just the absence of sound. It is the environment where your soul finally has the chance to speak. In the quiet, all the things you've been pushing aside, all the wounds you've been ignoring, all the pain you've been covering with busyness or noise begin to surface. It can feel uncomfortable at first because silence has a way of exposing what you've tried to bury. But it is only in that exposure that true healing can take place. God doesn't heal what we continue to hide, but when we bring ourselves into silence, he gently begins to uncover the broken places so he can make us whole again. Silence creates the space where God can perform surgery on your heart. Think of it like being in a spiritual operating room. When everything goes still, when the distractions fade, God begins to work on the parts of you that words can't reach. He begins to pull out bitterness that has been poisoning your spirit. He removes the resentment that has been weighing you down. He replaces anger with peace, fear with faith, and doubt with confidence. Healing doesn't always happen in the noise of celebration. Many times it begins in the quiet where no one else is watching. Too often we stay busy so we don't have to face ourselves. We fill our schedules, surround ourselves with people, and drown our thoughts with endless noise, just so we don't have to hear the sound of our own brokenness. But silence forces us to confront what we've been running from. And in that confrontation, God doesn't condemn us. He heals us. He reminds us that the scars we carry are not evidence of failure, but proof of survival. He turns silence into a sanctuary where restoration becomes possible. As the healing unfolds, silence begins to teach you how to hear yourself again. You learn how to separate your true identity from the lies spoken over you. You begin to remember that you are not your trauma, not your mistakes, not the rejection you endured. You are who God says you are. Silence gives you the space to reintroduce yourself to the real you, the version of yourself that was hidden beneath pain, but is now rising stronger than ever. This healing process in silence also strengthens your ability to connect with others. When your heart is whole, you no longer operate from a place of insecurity or defensiveness. You can love freely, forgive fully, and live boldly because you are no longer carrying wounds that bleed into every interaction. Silence doesn't just heal you for you. It heals you so that you can show up whole for your purpose, for your calling, and for the people connected to your destiny. So don't be afraid of silence. It is not empty. It is full of possibility. It is the sacred place where your soul is restored and your heart is made new. In the stillness, God does the kind of deep healing that no words could ever accomplish. Before God ushers you into a new level, He often leads you into a season of silence. It's not silence meant to punish you, but silence designed to prepare you. These are the moments when you feel hidden, when it seems like the world has passed you by, when your prayers echo back without a response. But what feels like absence is actually God's presence at work. Silence positions you to receive revelation that can only come when distractions are removed and your heart is tuned to His frequency. In silence, you learn to wait without rushing, to trust without demanding, to listen without interrupting. These lessons are not glamorous, but they are transformative. When you can sit in the quiet and allow God to pour wisdom into your spirit, you begin to see with new eyes. He starts to reveal strategies you couldn't think of on your own, directions you never considered, and solutions that shift the course of your life. Revelation is not always lightning striking from heaven.